Oh, and we're live. I can do the buttons from here. What's up, Hannah? I'm so happy to have you on. I've been trying to have you on for a while, so I'm excited. Um, Last time we hung out, let's just dive into that and then we'll go into the whole thing. Last time we hung out, we took on an adventure that most would not.
Yeah.
We went to Ultra Music Festival for one day, Saturday of day two, and we drove from Tampa to Miami. And for those who don't know, we did a solid 8 hour driving that day for another 8 hours of music. And I was absolutely destroyed the next day. I was exhausted.
I feel so bad that I made you drive on the way back.
No, you're good. You're good. Not at all. I do prefer to drive, and it was so weird. So funny thing about that whole trip is that trip, like driving back at night, like podcast like wasn't like keeping me awake. Dubstep was not keeping me awake. And then I was like, I gotta do something here. I don't know if you remember waking up, but I was like playing country music and I was singing at like the top of my lungs.
I
And
thought that was a fever dream.
yeah, yeah,
I
like,
legitimately thought that like that was one of like just my dreams that I had on the way back.
no, it happened. I was jamming like full on like belching like country music and you're passed out. And I'm also worried I'm gonna wake you, but I am like full on singing. It's the only thing
I
keeping
wasn't
me
gonna
awake.
wake up at that point.
Yeah, it's the only thing keeping me awake. And then now I listen to country music all the time again. Brought me back to my roots of country music.
Nice.
So it was just funny to do like 8 hours of like EDM, and then on the way home I'm like, country girl, like,
Definitely a little bit of a switch up for sure, but sometimes that's much needed, especially after just listening to for
a while.
how many hours straight that day.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun day still, but oh my gosh, did I tell you? So that day I dropped you off in the morning, and then I went to go meet my buddy, and we went and got like lunch and stuff. Did I tell you that morning we went to brunch, and I ordered 2 tequila drinks, and they were like 80 something dollars a piece, and I had no idea.
Where did you go? Like, I know it's Miami, but where did you go?
We went to this like nice little Cuban diner, and it was great food. The drinks were maybe they weren't 80, but they were like $50 a piece. Still, they
What
were
type of
more
tequila did you
expensive.
get?
That's what happened. So the waiter, I didn't understand that so I thought he said Don Julio, or like, he gave off the options, like, so Don Julio, I'm drawing a blank of Terramana, like he's saying all these options, and I heard Don Julio, and then I heard him say 1942, thinking those were two different tequilas.
You didn't put two and two together?
I didn't put two and two together at all.
Oh my god.
So I ordered Don Julio 1942, had two wonderful drinks, not thinking anything, and I'm like, good, I got a nice little brunch in, a little buzz going, what a day. And I get my bill back, it was $180, and I'm like, oh, my whole day is, I've spent more money than I intended to already.
Lovely.
Like, because we had, we bought we had free tickets basically, and I got one for $100, so I was like, $100 day, what a great day.
Yeah.
Like, what a great day. And then I'm like, great, now I'm spending $300 because of this lunch.
The drinks, they came with the tickets basically at that point.
Yeah, literally. I was so mad at myself. I was like, oh, I can't believe I did that. And then my buddy knew the owner of the restaurant, which was funny. And he came over and like, oh, good to see you again. And he like brought us shots. And I did the shot. And of course, it was like the barest bone tequila possible.
Just giving you like the Jose Cuervo.
Yeah, literally. No, that's what it was. Like, all four.
The house.
I asked him, I was like, what was that? And he held up the bottle. And I was like, oh, I'm buying the one behind you in the golden bottle, by the way. Could ball out for me. Did not.
Jesus. God, the drinks are always where it gets you for sure.
Yeah, and it's just Miami. I mean, but anyways, I thought that was a funny aspect of our story, because I was like, oh, I'm saving money today. What a great day. And no.
God.
Lunch was not cheap.
That was just a very, very just hyperactive day altogether, especially with the rain that went up to like your goddamn knees.
Yeah.
The festival being postponed like 4.5 hours.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. It's like we were in line and we were like texting.
Because I kept texting you, and I was like, well, any word? Because we were waiting for the stage to get the thumbs up and everything too.
To go.
That was a rough time.
Yeah. It was a fun trip. It was.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I could. Crazy enough too. I don't know if I even said this to you. That was my second time doing something like that at Ultra. The year before, I was in Orlando. This is when I lived in South Carolina, and I was in Orlando. And my buddy was like, hey, I have 3 friends that can't go Saturday, but they're going Friday and they're going Sunday. I don't know. I have no idea how that makes sense at all. But they're like, they'll sell us their bands for $100 for the day. Do you want to drive down? And I was like, fuck yeah, I'm here. Why not?
Like, don't mind if I do.
And we drove down and we rented, because I flew in, none of us had a car, and I rented like a Kia Soul, and the three of us drove down this Kia Soul and
Oh my God.
and made it to Ultra, and then drove back to, and we drove back through the night, and they dropped me off at the airport. I got on my flight and went back to South Carolina.
Wow. I feel like that's a very like common thing when it comes to like festival goers too. Just the impulsive trips just out of nowhere. I know how many I did of those.
Yeah, that's true. I guess now that you bring it up,
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that.
I'm
100%.
seeing a common denominator here.
Yeah. What's another festival? Quickly, we'll get off festivals. I don't want to harp on them too long, but what that you've done that impulsivity of like, hey, I'm going today, and I just happen to.
Oh my God, so many. I think probably like the most like sporadic one, probably.
The most sporadic and fun one.
Let's see. I mean, I didn't know that I was going to Imagine last year until like 2 days before I did. Otherwise, probably Paradise Blue actually that first year. The first year, oh wait, actually no, my memory is all jogged up with that. It was the second year. The second year, I was having issues with our room, and one of the people who was inside of our room, I didn't find out that they stopped paying it like months prior.
Oh no.
Until like 3 days before I was supposed to fly down. So I basically was liable for this like $5,000 ticket.
Oh my God.
I already had paid for the flight. I already had all my plans all set up and everything. So I went out on a whim and I posted on every social media platform. I was like, I promise this is not a scam. I promise I'm a real person. Will somebody please PayPal me like $1,500 right now? So we all can go to Paradise Blue. I understand this is a huge discount and this doesn't seem real, but I promise you, I paid for the flight. You know, I already paid for my portion.
Yeah.
You know, I will pay for the remainder if you don't want to pay the whole difference. But I ended up finding 3 wonderful, beautiful souls to trust me enough to PayPal me like, I don't know, somewhere between like $500 and like $800.
Yeah.
But they PayPal'd me that, and then I had to use my PayPal account in order to make a one-time payment to the Paradise Blue people. And we ended up, you know, making that payment like the day before the flight.
Oh my God.
And we ended up making it down there, and I finally met the people who, you know, bless their souls for sending me all that money, and it ended up being a fantastic weekend.
That is that story would have me. I'd be like, I'm so anxious about that.
Oh yeah,
and then I'll be on the other side of it, like I pay you, and then I'm like, I guess I'll see you there. Hopefully, like
they had no idea who I was, and you know, I wouldn't have done that probably.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have done that. That's I don't know. I think that's way more says about them.
Right.
I was trying to like people out there.
I was trying to like send like videos of myself to you being like, "Hi, my name is Hannah. Hello, I'm a real person.
AI.
I promise I'm not a scam. I promise I'm a real person." And yeah, we eventually all made it down there. But yeah, that was a fantastic weekend. Besides me like almost not making the plane ride back and everything too. But
did they just still have the COVID thing where you had to get tested before you left Mexico?
Oh my God, the first year, they had you do that. So I remember specifically that day 2 of the festival, I ended up like passing out outside on the very last day, you know, not charging my phone or anything like that. And so of course I make it to the airport like barely on time, and my phone's at 1%, and it just dies right as I was trying to get through security, and they were asking me for my COVID check, and I was like, oh, like it's right on here, and they're like, oh no, you need like a secondary check, and my phone is like dead now, and I had a charger but it didn't fit the outlets there. So I'm like freaking out, like I'm about to miss my flight and my phone's dead and I'm hungover and this all just sucks. Everything about this is just so terrible. And this one lady behind the desk, she's like, charger? And I'm like, yes, please. I threw my phone across that charger, and as soon as I was on 1%, the person who needed to check me, I was like, COVID, negative. And they let me through, and I was the last person on the flight before like the gates closed. The gates were supposed to close already, and I was like straight out of a movie, running down like, stop the plane, hold it up, stop the gate. And I was let on.
I remember I got positive, like I showed positive to
Oh
leave,
no.
and I didn't know that, and I went out and did excursions, and like we got like a notification that like hey, like we're looking for you at the hotel, like where are you, because you can't leave,
Jesus.
because I was supposed to leave the next day, and they're like you
Yeah.
can't leave, you have to come back and get retested, and then I had to like run and get retested before our excursion and all that, and of course
Oh
I was
God.
like, and I was fine, I was like no, there's an issue, like, and it came back negative when I got out. But
Great.
I also remember at the gate they like changed our gate without telling us at the airport. I remember that. We like walked up and we're like, this isn't us. And we go to the
Yeah.
board, no sign, nothing. We had to like find it, run around, and we found it. It was a mess, but
God.
it worked out. That was a fun trip. Did you stay any days before or after, or did you just go and then leave?
No, it was actually during both times was during my finals week
Oh
in
my God.
college. Um, so the first year, I remember it was when the whole fiasco happened of the COVID test and my phone being on, dying on me. But as soon as I got on the plane, we actually ended up getting delayed like 4 hours. And it was like the scariest thing in the world because we were like about to take off and like the lights went out and all this happened and we landed like right
Yeah.
after going off the ground, went right back down.
Oh my God.
And they basically said that they couldn't find what the maintenance problem was. And I specifically remembered the most bizarre thing happening in the world where we were just waiting for an answer basically. And the pilot comes on and he's like, hello, according to Mexican aviation law, if we can't figure out what's wrong with the flight, we have to have a Mexican priest come on and bless the plane. So we had our plane, we had our plane blessed before we were able to take off again. And as soon as we landed, I basically had to take an Uber trip, still with the braids in and my harem pants and my festival
Yeah.
top. I Ubered to and I specifically remember my microeconomics class directly for my final.
Oh my God. And how'd the final end up?
Got a C plus.
Let's go. That's all that
I
matters.
remember my professor went over to me. He was like, "Hannah, you all right?" And I was like, "You remember how I said I was in the music industry?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm assuming this is it." And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah. Yeah. I just got back
Yeah.
5 minutes ago.
I was like, "You guys have no idea that I just got back from Mexico 2 hours
Yeah.
ago." I was in a different country before I took
Yeah,
this.
no, you're in it's that meme. You're in the corner. Like,
I
you
know,
have no
you're
idea.
like,
I was just in Mexico.
No one
idea.
knows
No
I
one
was
knows
just
I
in
was-
Mexico. No one knows the experience I just had over the weekend.
I remember Excision was on the flight home for us
Oh
because
my
we were
God.
going from Mexico to Orlando and then Forbidden Kingdom was that weekend.
Oh
So
yeah.
he was on, and we stayed 2 days after, 3 days after,
Yeah.
to just like veg, relax, do excursions, chill at the pool. And so he was on our flight in first class, and we like saw him and whatever,
Yeah.
all that. That was cool.
Oh, that's
But
funny.
and our buddy
Cheers.
sat behind him and was like, he was working on music the entire time,
Yeah.
like prepping or whatever. So
Yeah.
that was cool to see. But
That's funny.
so besides the music industry stuff, that's how we met, which that's how we last saw each other.
Oh yeah.
There's been a lot of changes in both of our lives, but let's not go into specifics, of course. But what's been going on with you? I know you've mentioned you're turning a new leaf on the festivals world. You've kind of gone into this like health and wellness era, and I want to talk about that because I think that stuff's so interesting. And I'm in the thick of some life changes now, so I'm like,
yeah.
let me hear about it. Let's dive into it. But what's changed? I know you just said lots changed since I last seen you, which was in March. So here we are in beginning of July. So
Right.
what's been happening from the last 4 months?
Yeah, I basically, well, the biggest thing is I have now stepped foot into the corporate world,
Ooh,
which has been
and
really
it's amazing.
nice, honestly. After being
You'll get there.
Yeah, I know. The good thing is that it is a startup.
Yes.
So it doesn't really feel like it's corporate. It doesn't feel like it's your job where you're working with a CEO and you're higher ups and reporting to a manager and all this and all that.
Yeah.
I'm only in an office with 4 other people, and that's when I want to be in the office. I can work from home if need be. It's unlimited PTO and all these
amazing.
great things. And
I have unlimited PTO right now too. It's pretty nice.
yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do.
As long as you want.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know, my job, my position was terminated at the company. All I was laid off. My position no longer exists, what I was told. So we'll see. But anyways, I'll make jokes about it. It's fun. We laugh about
There
it.
we
But
go.
continue.
But you know, startup culture has really kind of shown me, you know, how much of a blessing it is to have flexibility. Because coming from, you know, kind of being a contract worker for the longest time, and you know, per se, kind of like being my own boss, and you know, choosing, you know, what gigs to take up and everything like that too. I knew that I could really never go back to that, like, you know, strict, you know, 9 to 5, or
Yeah.
go back to a strict schedule, or go back to anything that didn't allow me flexibility. And being able to have a structured, I wouldn't even say structured, it's really unstructured, because I have like the authority to do a lot of different things, especially as, you know, at being at a startup. I wear like a million different hats. You know, even though my role is technically sales and marketing coordinator, um, you know, which not a lot of people do anyways. There's usually a sales role and a marketing role,
Yeah.
and there's a million different hats under each of those as well. Um, you know, I kind of have the ability to, you know, run my own things, come up with my own ideas. I have creative freedom. And it really doesn't feel like, you know, a job when you enjoy it, you
Right.
know, that much. And you feel like you're just going in there to talk with people and talk about these cool new ideas, and put into this like idea pool that can turn into something, you
And
know.
yeah, the best jobs, like you kind of just mentioned, are one that you love, but two, companies that offer like that flexibility that you mentioned of just like being a person
Yeah.
and not like you know, nailed to the job and nailed to the desk
Mm-hmm.
is makes that environment so much easier. It makes that work environment so much
Oh,
better.
absolutely.
Everyone around you's happy, no one's down. I've been in both settings where it's like everyone's excited to go into work and we're pumped and the whole team's excited. That
Yeah.
is like, it just creates this thing that can grow more and more. I've
Right.
been on the other end where 7 of the 8 people are dreading going in,
Yeah.
and you're sitting there like, dude, get me out of
Right.
here. Like when, like you're counting, you know, you're looking at the clock like, fuck, we got 5
Literally.
more hours.
Right.
Like you're just like ready to go, you know? So there, yeah, there's and it's night and day too. Like you said, when you have something that's so good and you see the other side, you're like, whew, thank
Right.
God. And
Yeah.
another big thing is like you mentioned the flexibility and like working on that gig work and then going to a 9 to 5 and
Mm-hmm.
being able to do work from home and all that is a plus. And I think that's a
Yeah.
big thing with our generation, wanting to work from home more.
Yeah.
And
It's
like, because we do value the fact, like, yes, I want to work, yes, I want to make money, but I also have a life outside of this job
absolutely
that I would like to also make good and
right.
enjoy. So
Exactly.
yeah.
It just provides a lot of like stability too. I mean, coming from, you know, working primarily nightlife too, I'm not gonna lie, it took a heavy toll on my mental health, a
Oh, I
hundred
bet.
percent. And it got to the point where I think I kind of crashed and burned a little bit. And going from that, where there were some times where I just kind of wished to myself, even like, man, I wish I could just work like a 9 to 5. Like, I wish I could just work during the daytime and have that like stable, boring job, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where my headspace was at for a long time. And now, you know, even if I'm bored sitting at my desk sometimes, or you know, not really doing much, I try to like practice a little bit of gratitude and be like, remember, like, think about how grateful you would be to be like in this exact moment, like just a few months
Dude,
ago,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I kind of have to like sit back, take a deep breath, and be like, remember, stability,
Mm-hmm.
peace. You know, I think peace is the biggest thing, you know, finally being able to feel like calm, you know, peace in the air, and like stability within yourself. That's kind of been like the theme of my life as of the past couple months,
Yeah.
and kind of like going forward, I feel like too.
You might put the mic just a little bit closer, but
Oh
on
yeah.
that theme of gratitude, I think that's such a wise, smart thing to live by, because we as people, and everyone, not just ourselves included, but everyone, is we're very quick to just like on to the next best thing, or hey, this sucks, and not think about like what good can come of it, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
or just, you know, what you said, showing gratitude, appreciating this thing in the moment for what it is and what it's allowed you to do, or what, you know, whatever it could be, versus like looking back in the past or looking too forward ahead. We have a lot of times we were very hard to be in the present.
Exactly. And I feel like not being in the present is like the or when people focus too much on either the past or focus too much on the future, you know, people don't realize what's actually going on in the now.
Yeah.
And before they know it, years that pass by, and there's like, this deep feeling of regret and not doing all these things because you were so afraid back then about what the future held. And then once you're in the future, you're like, well, shit, I didn't do anything to, avoid any of this. And you're stuck in this like toxic cycle of actually never being with yourself.
Never growing. And
Yeah.
I in the past 3 months for me, I've had a lot of growth in the sense of not living with those fears, and more living in, like, sounds so cliche and so dumb to say, but like trying to live my life in like a loving way more than like a fearful way.
Yeah.
And it took a lot for me to realize like certain fears I had, and then not only like realize them, but then like admit them
Yes.
and talk about them. And it was like I remember clear as day the day I like vocalized my fear to a friend and said them. I left that conversation, and it was like a freaking just a weight, like a boulder that was on me that I had no idea was there, just lifted off of me. And I remember driving home, after this like emotional conversation, but like I was just cheerful and giddy and happy, and it was like, oh my God. And then it just like clicked, like, yeah, I can't be living in like a fearful way. And you don't realize it at the time. It took me forever to realize that I was living like that, and then like I realized it now. I'm like, at everything, I'm like, nope, just gotta be careful, gotta be nice, gotta be gratitude, gotta be happy about it,
right?
Like, and take it with a grain of, take whatever bad thing comes with a grain of salt, and try not to let it take over your life, because when you're living in fear, it can just drive you, and it's a driver toward a certain destination that you're not living your full potential to that destination, because you're restricting yourself. But
exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if I went on a tangent there, but it falls. What I was trying to do is, it does fall with that gratitude, because that's something I personally am trying to work a lot more on as of like a month ago.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, and especially with like the job thing. Let's just take for example, like the job thing is something that's very hard to be like, gratitude, I no longer have a paycheck,
right?
Ooh, gratitude, like whenever like whatever that small thing is. But at the end of the day, you got to figure out how to turn that around to something better.
And I think that goes along with just, everything is based in perspective, no matter what situation you're kind of in. I mean, with the job situation, I mean, even going at that, I mean, yes, it sucks, but also, this is, maybe it was time for a new page to turn. You
might be onto something there.
Yeah, and sometimes, I even have to do this a lot, even if the shittiest of things have happened, or, if something is really just thing after another, after another, after another. I'll try to like convince myself about some weird positive that came out of it. Like, I'll be like, you know what, it might be delusional to think this way, but at least I'm putting myself in a better headspace.
Yeah.
You can talk yourself into a good mood sometimes, and especially when it's based out of fear and everything too. I've struggled with anxiety for a long time, and after years of trying to practice mindfulness and correct like coping strategies with it and everything too, I think one of the best things is learning how to self-soothe with a lot of things. And I think that is a big contributing factor of kind of getting out of those fears and getting back into that comfort level.
100%. And funny enough, we were talking on the phone before all this, and you mentioned mindfulness, and at the time I was like, I don't know really what that is, and but you just said something that clicked with me so well, which is, I have been trying to practice mindfulness, and then before I wasn't thinking about it, but let's take that fear for example. Like, in the previous me, old me, would have a fearful thought come in, and I would just push it down, stuff it down. And that's kind of guy culture too. They don't show it, don't show that, stuff it down, you're not feeling it. And I would stuff it down, and I would distract myself with whatever I could at that time. And a lot of times it's like I would just pull up YouTube or I'd play video games, and you do that for 30 minutes to an hour,
Just
and
masking
that
it.
thought just goes away and you're like, got past it, yay. But you're not facing it and you're not feeling it out. And it doesn't mean you have to give that thought or fear power, but you're recognizing it and figuring out where it came from and then addressing it. And that's what I'm really trying to practice now, is because now that I'm trying to not be in a fearful state, I'm trying to do that where like this emotion will come on, and I'll be like, okay, this sucks. We just need to sit with this, and yep, it's gonna pass. And okay, we're sad because of X, Y, Z or whatever. And so what is the definition though of mindfulness, the practice of mindfulness? Because you've mentioned it. Obviously, it just clicked for me. Like, I guess I kind of have been doing that. But am I on the right track there, or is there like a better definition that you have, or what is it to you?
Mindfulness to me, I'm no obviously therapist or anything like that, but to me, and what I've gathered, over the years is that it's the practice of just kind of being in the moment, acknowledging the present and acknowledging your feelings, understanding them, understanding where they come from, and knowing and trusting yourself enough to think rationally, and that's the biggest thing, to think rationally, as to how to address them and how to let them pass, and just practice emotional intelligence altogether. And I think, what you said is recognizing feelings. That is absolutely huge. I think one of the most powerful things that, I was told is basically to, whenever you have these very strong and very, what feel like very consuming feelings, is to acknowledge them. Understand that you could, if you wanted to, give them power, like you said, but just to recognize that they exist, the existence of them. Because if you just say that they're not real, they're just going to come back 10 times as hard, in the future. Like you said, you just push them down,
and you multiply it, right? It's getting worse and worse until it's like,
right. You can only live in your own little delusional world for how long?
Either way,
you got to face reality at some point, and you have to understand that it is the best thing to face whatever issue you might be facing head on, acknowledge it, acknowledge how it's making you feel. Is it making you feel fearful? Is it stemming from insecurity? Is it stemming from a past trauma? And kind of going from there, saying, well, now that I'm recognizing it and acknowledging where this is coming from, how do I not per se solve it, because there is no solvable, thing ever, it's dealing with it and, understanding where to go in the future when these feelings come up again. Because, I mean, you are one lucky motherfucker if you, feel a feeling once that was so intense and then you say, nope, and then shove it away and it never comes back in your life. Like, that's just usually not how it goes.
Yeah, I don't believe that's even possible.
No, I don't believe... no, you're probably a psychopath.
Yeah, I think you're just continuously, like, you're really strong-willed in that sense,
right,
of like
you're narcissist.
Or you're coping with it and you don't realize it. Like someone who maybe drinks nothing against going out and having a few drinks, but maybe you're drinking a lot, and you're getting drunk a lot, or you're getting high. Like, that's another thing, is I would probably get high sometimes. And like, just for me as a person, I don't like to do it all the time. I do it here and there. I do it over the weekends, but for me, it like shuts everything off. Right. Like, I'm not creative on it. I can't be a go-getter. I'm done.
But it writes it off for a little while, right?
Yeah. 100%. But that's like something some people might do, and but those unhealthy coping mechanisms will build up, and then in a way you're living. It's almost like the mental state now affects your physical state, because it's affecting you. Right. Yeah, the fact that, like, hey, I'm drinking to not think about this thing, and then
yeah, it's definitely a toxic cycle there, with just masking how you feel and just trying to push those feelings down, as much as you can. There's no growth in that.
No, there's no growth, and it is a cycle. That's something that again, when you're doing it and you're experiencing it, you don't really think that it's a cycle. You're just like, oh, this feeling's coming back again. But the reality is, it's like, you stuff it down, goes away, it starts to creep in for a couple days, and you're thinking about it, and you're like, nah, whatever. And then, like, you have one day where you're like, I'm just so out of it. Right. I can't, this thing's on my mind. and I'm going crazy. And then if you're really pushing that thing back down,
Yeah.
then it just stops, and you're like, oh, the day's over. Okay, that was just a bad day.
Right.
Just a bad day.
Mm-hmm. And then
And then it
comes
comes
back
right back around, and you're
around.
like, oh,
It's a
why have I had
vicious.
this every 3 months, every month and a half? I have this bad day.
Right.
Oh, it's a bad day. And you're like, yeah. Like looking back, it's funny. I'm looking back like myself right now as we're talking. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, I had a couple bad days, and I was thinking like, just a
Mm-hmm.
bad day.
Right.
And I would like text my significant other and stuff and be like, I'm just having a bad day.
Right.
And vice versa, which fine, that's good on them and me.
Yeah.
Communicate you're having a bad day, but maybe communicate more as to why.
Yeah, right.
Versus stuffing it down.
Mm-hmm. Or pinpointing it and trying to figure out, well, okay, why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
Was there something that happened that made me feel this way? Was it something that, and I hate that we use the word, but something that triggered me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. And funny is amazingly, people are very strong-willed. It is a very amazing quality.
Yeah.
However, it can be something that turns out to be bad by when we're ignoring something, or a lot of times people will just write it off. Like,
Yeah.
like I did. Hey, I had a bad day. Just a bad day.
Yeah.
I'm a little gloomy today.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's like this looming thing. Like I said, a weight lifted off my shoulders by just admitting, like,
Right.
I got some fears that I probably should address.
Yes, right. And that's healthy too. I think that there's beauty in discomfort in a lot of ways, because when you feel uncomfortable, your body in a way knows before you do that something's
yeah.
wrong, and that I'm feeling unstable, I'm feeling unsafe right now, and what's the natural primal feeling that we always want to feel? It's over anything, it's safety.
Yeah.
And not being in a constant state of like fight or flight. And when you feel uncomfortable, when you're feeling all these different feelings, that must mean something must change, whether it's your environment, your mindset, your circle.
Yeah.
There's some factor, and it could either be a huge factor or as tiny as removing one variable out of your life. That could be the biggest change for your mental health.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is, like, again, I can only relate to it to
Yeah.
myself, but, like, when I admitted that, and then, obviously, first off, I want to make that super clear. Like, once you admit whatever the issue is,
Yeah.
it doesn't just go away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's still there. Like, that habit that has been built up for years and
Yeah.
years, potentially,
Right.
doesn't want to just leave.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to make a conscious effort to not do that again, and express your whatever that is, whatever the issue is, do that. Just like with going to the gym, you have to make a constant effort to go
Yep.
until it becomes more second nature.
And guess what that's called? Practicing mindfulness.
Yeah. See, I didn't even know I was doing it. We were talking earlier. I was like, that's a great concept.
Right.
Now I'm like, oh, I've been doing that the last month and a half. And what I was getting at was, it's gonna try to come back, and
Yeah.
it's gonna try to. It's almost like Christianity and stuff, like to use the devil as that, but like that's it. That's a good way to putting it. Like, it's the devil trying to lower your vibration, or whatever you want to call it, down by you doing these old bad habits that aren't helping.
Yeah,
progress you into
self-sabotaging tendencies for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that not to be all hippie talk or whatever, but
I love it. I love hippie talk. It's good.
your low vibrational self. So it's the part of you that wants to fall back into old habits because it's what you're used to.
Yeah.
Back when you were in that state where those feelings were constant, or you were in an environment that wasn't the best for you or something, or just any toxic trait that keeps creeping up. Those are technically, self-sabotaging behaviors when you fall back on those. So when you take a couple steps forward, you get into that growth phase almost, and then you get a little bit uncomfortable, you start getting those feelings again, you might fall back into a cycle that puts you 3 steps back again.
100%.
You always gotta
It's
be so
almost like
careful.
the universe testing you a little bit to be like, you're trying to grow. How bad do you want to grow?
Yeah. So you want to move.
Yeah, and it does that with everything, by the way. Not just like your interpersonal stuff, but like your relationships, your job, your whatever your vision is for yourself.
Yeah.
It playfully and laughably just is like, okay, well, how bad do you want it?
what can we mix up?
Yeah.
Things are feeling a little too stable right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Time to grow.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. And I think at our core we're all love is love, and Jen, that's a very broad term, but like just being a person who lives through love is our highest self.
Yeah.
And there's a side of the universe that wants us to be there, and when you get there it's great and life is
Yeah.
amazing, and because you're able to understand people better,
Mm-hmm.
you're able to love everyone and everything that this beautiful earth and universe provides.
Right.
But there's a darker side to it, the yin and yang, where it wants you to live in those lower vibrational
Mm-hmm.
things, fear. That's the only one that's coming to mind right now, but that's the main
Right.
one, you know.
But I mean, it takes those lows to appreciate the highs more.
That's also true.
You
Yeah.
know, and I think that's something, it's one of those look at everything in a positive light.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what's the cliche saying? It's like you don't feel the light until you've been consumed in the dark first or something. But some I can't even remember what it is right now, but you can cut that out if you want.
No, 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 no. Everything stays in. No, it is weird how the learning curves of life, the learning waves of life, where you have your ups and your downs.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you are, it's totally true where you would never be able to experience those highs without your lows. But at the
Yeah.
same time, no one wants those lows.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah. No one wants them.
Yeah.
And what's funny is a lot of times we as people do our best to mitigate the ability for a low to happen, right? Like we try to control a certain thing, we try to
Yeah.
like, stay in this will work, but inevitably, without any try or any or that's I'm stumbling over my words here. Inevitably, what happens though is like our biggest fear that we're trying to prevent ends up happening
Mm-hmm.
because we're trying to prevent it rather than just like going with the
Yeah.
flow of things. Not that you need to be like, oh, whatever, man. Like, but like when you're actively trying to prevent something, you're really just manifesting it to come true.
Oh yeah. And when you're thinking about it constantly too, I always see things happen, especially when it's something that I'm really worried about or something that I can't get off my mind. If I keep thinking about it and I keep pondering on it, it always happens.
Oh my
Almost
God.
like 99.9999% of the time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. I relate to this so much right
Oh
now.
my
It's
God.
like crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I understand that completely.
Right.
And then you look back and you're like, I'm an idiot. Of course that like I
Right.
can see now
Hmm.
how the way I was acting was gonna inevitably affect.
Right.
By the time you're just like, nope, nope, things will just be all good.
Yep. So now it's like I've experienced it so many times where I ponder and it actually happens. Now I try to convince myself if I'm like worried something will happen like in a similar type of way, I'll literally try try to like reverse manifest it where I'll literally say out loud like you know nothing's gonna happen. I I life is going exactly how I want it
Yeah.
to right now. I am the creator of my own destiny. I looking back at it, you just want to laugh. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I mean, I'm like, at least I'm not saying like, oh my God, this is gonna happen. Oh my God, it's inevitable that's gonna happen. All these bad things happen to me and like this and this and that. At least I can try to be like a fake optimist a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah. Do you believe in or give some power to like manifestation?
That's a tricky one for me. You know, I think that there's power in your mentality and in your
Yeah.
mindset, where if you say things enough, you actually start to believe it. And there's a lot of different studies, that show, when you see a positive message enough times, your brain actually starts to like regenerate how it thinks certain thoughts. I mean, a great example of this is, not to shout out a company or anything, but a company that we work with is called Cope Notes. And what they do basically is that they send out at different times of the day, it's never consistent, but they send out positive affirmations or just good hearted messages and they text it to you because it's literally proven that if you see good messages every day and you see like these good, I guess, things that you just read and you're consuming like consistently and constantly, your brain actually starts to rewire the way that it kind of courses through its everyday thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's insane. Like,
Yeah.
they wouldn't be a company if that wasn't, a proven, study.
Yeah, I believe that. One of my favorite podcasts ever was this guy Naval Ravikant, and he had a concept of that happiness is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's very controversial to say.
Yeah, right.
But and he went into it. He just was stating like you can be happy. You just have to mentally want to be happy, and you will eventually, if he's like, it's not just like a mental thing. You gotta work at it too.
Yeah.
It's kind of, they go two hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
Like, but he went into that and said like, I was not happy, but now I am.
Yeah.
He's like, I just started slowly looking at things better, and his like, he gave like an example of like, one of his friends at like a dinner party took like 500 photos and sent them all out, and he got the email, and at first he was like, oh my God, why the heck did someone take 500 photos? Then he was like, wait, I gotta be more happy. It can't be so negative. And his new thought was, great, I've got all these memories from this dinner now. So like, it's small things like that slowly build up into a mountain of happiness.
Right.
And yeah, I just thought that was interesting where he was saying like happiness is a choice. And then when he starts to, because at that broad level, happiness is a choice, you're like, I'm skeptical. But then when you dive into it and he's like, these little building blocks, start building it up. Right. Eventually you're going to be like, oh, wow,
Right. It's just like anything with consistency too.
Yes.
I mean, like we can go back to the, analogy of working out.
Yeah.
Even though you might be, eating, in a calorie deficit or something for 1 week,
right.
And you're only losing like 0.0005 pounds every single week. You stay consistent with that for over, the course of like 6 months.
Compounds.
You see a difference. And that's the same with, practicing more positive mindset. You start practicing gratitude, for example, too. I mean, for me too, one of my little things that I picked up is I started to try to make it be part of my daily habit to start my day with writing in my little gratitude journal and ending my day doing that too. And it's just a easy one with a few like pre-made prompts inside of it. Like one thing was like, what's one thing that made you smile today? Or another one could be like, what's one thing that you're grateful for that you would have wished that you had 1 year ago? And I think that starting your day with that, like before I even get out of bed, I have it right on my nightstand. Pick it up, sleepy-eyed, I'll write something in there, and you're like, you know what? I am grateful for that. You start your day with a little bit of a smile, then you go on through your day, and then, right before I go to bed, it takes 30 seconds. I open it up and it'll say, what's one thing that made you smile today? And it's like, one thing could be like, I had like a really nice conversation with a stranger today that made me smile, Right. And I think it's little things like that kind of like trigger your brain into just, having a good start to your day and realizing like, oh, I did have a good day. Remembering, like, forgetting all the stress a little bit, kind of remembering the little things that, I'm such a little things type of person,
Right. But it's the little things, again,
that count,
that add up to these bigger things.
I appreciate little things so much. Like, I'm the type of person that, like, if I just stand outside, like, I will just take a deep breath and I'll, like, look at a tree and be like, oh my God, nature. I'll be like, that tree took probably 30 years to get as big as it does now. And now it's home to that family of squirrels that probably has lived generations in this area. Like, right, I get on these weird tangents of just like appreciating the little things in life. I love looking at the little things, and it reminds you of just how minuscule your issues are in comparison to like the entirety of the world.
No, and you need that perspective sometimes. I need that right now. I need to go out there and look at some trees.
Look at some squirrels. I swear, you see a little family of squirrels chasing each other around, you'll forget about,
Yeah, the 5,000 things that are going. But I will say, I go with people, little things that people, not necessarily that they do, but like if they remember something, or they go, hey, this little, like that, right. That gets me. Where I'm like, how did you remember that? Right. Yeah, or someone could be literally as simple as like a friend. You know what the simplest version of that is? A friend sharing like a meme or something that they're like, I think you would like. I think you would like that. Or
like, just a simple, like you share a little reel and be like, you.
Yes.
It could be something as simple as that and be like, oh, you thought about me. Thank you.
I love doing that myself. That's why I know, like, I'm like, I gotta do that more for people. Send them little
Right.
things like, I thought this about this, you would like this,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. Something
Yeah.
so minute and small, and it takes a second,
Mm-hmm.
and you might make someone's day because you never know.
Right. And
Yeah.
like going along with that too, like there's some things that make me feel good inside too, like reconnecting with people or, expressing like thank you for being a great friend. Like I know I haven't talked to you in a couple months, but thank you for being there for me. Or even today, I went on Facebook for like the first time in ever and I saw like some family updates of like, my family back in Minnesota and that I haven't seen in how long. I comment on their stuff like, oh, like it was a family picture. I'm like, you guys have such a beautiful family. Like, miss you, XOXO, and just kind of poking at reconnecting, makes you feel a little good inside,
Yeah. Yeah, leaving those compliments, and again, same thing, like those compliments is another factor of like showing your gratitude and also try to uplift other people. And it's such an easy, quick thing to do
Right.
on anyone's social media
Mm-hmm.
platform on Instagram. I've been trying to be more vocal on social with just like people I'm following or friends with
Oh,
in
same
the
here.
scene and stuff. Just being like, hey, that's so sick. That's so cool. Like,
Right.
nothing. I'm not trying to. It's funny as a guy. It's a little different as a girl because I feel like if I comment on a girl's photo, they immediately think I'm like
Right. And
trying
I'm
to hit
like,
on them or something.
mommy, I'm no better than a man.
Yeah.
We can get away with that stuff a little bit more, I'd say.
Yeah, you guys can get away with. But like that's the thing is like I'm like, what the fuck do I comment to like say like
Right.
like sick out
Fire
like,
fit.
yes, exactly. And for me, they're probably like, this fucking weirdo.
What is he looking at my fit now?
But like, this is me. I'm saying it on the podcast. So people start understanding. I'm just trying to be more out there and let people know, like, hey, this is awesome, without being like, let's hook up. Like that's not what I'm trying to do.
Oh my god, people take things way too deep nowadays, too.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
We're all just here for a good time,
Yeah. Yeah. Can the good times please come?
Yeah, they're coming. I am a sole believer.
No, I know. I was just being funny. I was just being funny. I promise.
Oh no, but on a real note though, I am a sole believer in like karma, as in like
agreed.
When something really, really, really terrible happens, or maybe not even karma, maybe just accepting that like, this is a wave. Life ebbs and flows constantly. And, just when you think you hit the bottom, you just have to accept to yourself, well, shit, this really sucks right now. But guess what? Only place to go from here is up.
Yeah. 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 No, it's funny you say that. I mean, I made that joke, but I did say that literally yesterday because, again, the job loss is like the icing on the cake of what's been happening in my life.
You're
the
like,
last
well,
2
guess
months.
what?
No, literally. And I was like, you know what? But on the real, there's so much that's happened and so much change that's occurring within this 2 month period. And for me, it was yesterday where I was like, the job, as great as it was, and I did like it, was the last piece of the old me that still existed.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like the universe in an odd way was like, hey, that's like 6 things in a row.
Yeah.
But this is the last. This is it. Like, that was the only other thing that was like kind of keeping you a little bit connected to your old life.
Mm-hmm.
In a weird way. Just because of like when I started that job, I was at a whole different place in my life than I am now. And that's so in a weird way, I said that to my aunt, who I'm very close with. I was like, gotta do what I gotta do now, but like that's what it feels like. Like, hey, this is everything is pointing into this new step into this new you.
Yeah.
And we're ready for you. Go take it. And it's weird. I was saying this before we even got on the podcast. It's weird to almost be aware of that occurring. Because most of the time I feel like you're not aware of the change. But this time it's like, I have no way to explain where I'm like, there's a lot of changes happening.
Yeah.
And do I think they're for the better? Yes, I do hope they're for the better.
Right.
But it is like, there's a part of me that still wants to hold on to the old me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just weird to be conscious of that, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
You're conscious.
I feel like most people don't realize it until after.
Right.
But I'm like sitting here like...
And you're in the midst of it.
I'm in the midst of it. Right.
Yeah.
I haven't even gotten to the part where things are good. I'm
right.
just in the middle of
and you're just consciously aware, like, holy shit, everything is crumbling down around me. And this could be a need for change. This I feel unsteady right
Right.
now. Like
I'm watching the
it's
Roman Empire
you're
crumble around
watching
me.
yourself from like third person view
Yeah.
basically. You know, it's such an
Yeah.
odd feeling, you know, seeing that
Yeah.
happen
I'm
and
seeing the
everything
old me
too.
get like brutally murdered.
Yes.
And
And
I'm standing there like, I look just like that guy. Am I next?
yeah, right? But honestly, you know, seeing that change from, you know, from the person who used to be and kind of shedding that skin and kind of saying like, you know, good riddance
Right,
almost.
right, right.
You know, it's kind of a bittersweet thing, and it's something that I've experienced too, especially in the past couple months now. But it's allowing yourself to almost grieve that old you know?
Mm,
And
okay.
I think that it's a really necessary thing to do in order to step into your new, you know, self, I guess.
Essentially, yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. This is also a weird thing, which I've started to realize and analyze. I'm curious what you'll think about this. But like, it is a new self, but at the same time, I almost feel like I'm stepping into the version of me that has always been there and is supposed to be there,
Mhm.
but that was like pushed away or hidden.
Oh yeah.
And what I mean by that is like I've always been somebody who tries to be the nice person to everybody. Everybody. I
Yeah.
want to make sure it can impact everybody as positive as I can.
Right.
And living in like that state of fear of what this outcome could be, and we don't have to, I'm not going to go into specifics of what that is, but that's just what it was. Like I was just living in fear, and that living in fear didn't allow me to be the best version of myself, to
Right.
love everyone and be that person that affects people in a positive manner. Could
Yeah.
I still get away with it? Yes, but like deep down I wasn't, I don't know, I wasn't that bubbly positive person all the time
Yeah.
as I normally am. And it's weird to feel like, yes, this is a new me, but at the same time, it's really like that old me. It's more like get rid of that guy. That guy's not
Uh-huh.
who we were. We weren't
Yeah.
that guy before this. Now we're that guy. Now we're going back to it.
Mhm.
But so it's a bit of both in a weird way. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that a little bit where it's almost like, you know, you're on this path right here and you just stray away a little bit. And,
Yeah.
you know, funny, maybe
Mm-hmm.
like a funny little way to say is like, you just went on a little side quest, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And oh, that side quest crashed and
And
burned.
turn back
Back
around.
to our scheduled
Yeah.
programming, you know?
Well, like when we're I'm gonna take this thought a bit further here. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we're kids and we are babies and we're growing to be kids, we have no concept of being hurt or emotional stuff that
Oh God,
occurs
I
in
love
life.
this topic.
And we just are our authentic, true self
Yeah.
being a child,
Mm-hmm.
And then all this stuff comes and you get cluttered and you
Mm-hmm.
start to protect yourself. And I guess what I getting at is like I feel like the child in me of being bubbly and loving what is coming back, and I'm going back to that old self almost in a way, and but with more wisdom and stuff from the
Right.
adventures. But before all that, I would not think to grow more. I was just like, oh, we'll just take that, compartmentalize it. Now I got to protect myself versus like now I'm more
Yeah.
like, okay, I can be wise and also still loving in a
Mm-hmm.
sense. But it's weird, like going back to inner child is what I'm trying to say. It's like
Yeah.
be that bubbly, fun, loving person that has almost is oblivious to everything else around.
Right. And I think this might be like a little bit of a hot take.
Bring it
But
on.
this is almost like the
Hot
like
takes with Hannah.
ooh, yeah. But it's almost like the nature versus nurture. And your personality and who you are is something that's never like a structured like definition.
Yeah.
You know, who you are constantly changes because your personality and the way that you react to things and you know your entire life is just a series of reactions and you know actions.
Mm.
You know that's all life is if you kind of oversimplify everything,
Yeah.
right?
I like that.
And you know your upbringing, you know, is definitely a huge cause of, you know, what your personality is like. And it also is, you know, who I guess that true core self could be like who you were, you know, who your
Yeah.
soul was meant to be from the get-go, you know,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing. But and you know, which is, you know, I hate me for it, but it's
No.
somewhat genetic, in a way,
Yeah, it can be. I
you
think.
know,
Yeah. What
but
do you?
it's not all of it though, at
No,
all by
absolutely
any
not.
means.
Yeah.
You could be predisposed to certain tendencies,
Ooh.
but also you learn over half of your tendencies as well. You learn from your environment how to react to things. You learn from your environment how to self-soothe. And that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean that you're taught how to self-soothe. It could be how you were almost like forced to in a way, or how you thought was the best way due to your external environment that you had no control over,
Yeah.
you know? So it's almost like this constant learning,
And
like
unlearning.
it really is. If you think
Yeah.
about it, you're learning and unlearning habits, tendencies, actions, responses all the time, all the way up until, your deathbed. You're learning these different things. I can guarantee you probably the mindset that you have on life, or maybe the big epiphany moments, are not going to be the same that we have today that they're going to be in 25 years from now,
Right. I gotta go.
you know?
We gotta go through all this again. No, I'm
Right?
just kidding. No,
No,
no.
I mean,
But
it
not again. But like a different lesson essentially. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's just a constant, you know, lesson after another,
Yeah.
And but at the same time, that's kind of what the beauty of being able to have a privilege of this life is, in a way.
Right. I mean I totally agree there. Life is a privilege of and to continue learning. It's almost like wasted to just be stagnant and
Right.
in the same place and be in a comfort. I don't know if is the right word. Comfort sometimes I feel like nowadays has a negative connotation to it of like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm comfortable with XYZ. I'm comfortable with that
Right.
person. Oh, I'm
It was like,
comfortable.
oh no, you should push yourself a little bit more.
Yeah,
Be
yeah,
the best
yes, yeah.
version.
Hustle culture doesn't like the comfort,
Yeah,
but at
right.
the same time, I feel like it's a necessity. Like you want to
Yeah.
have some, obviously, just with like everything else, you don't want too much of it, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't want too little of it either. You know,
Right.
you want to have a level of comfort that allows you to go out and do other things and
Mm-hmm.
learn from it and learn and take lessons. But you don't want to, yeah, you don't want to be like comfort where you're not doing anything.
Yeah,
But
exactly. It's the motivating comfort. You're
yes,
comfortable enough within your situation, and you're comfortable enough within yourself
mm,
to want to respect yourself enough to want to grow, or to want to push yourself to move forward, or to, almost, the cliche word, level up in life.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know but there, you always have to have some sort of comfort in your life, and that's just primal, innate as human beings too. We need to feel that source of security and that
right.
feeling of, comfort, safeness, in order to, even kind of reach that equilibrium that we need to feel.
You know, I was just as you were talking, what dawned on me. I think the people say comfort and they use that in a negative connotation. What they really mean is like settling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's
yeah,
that's just that you're settling for the life that you're living. You know that there's more, you know that there's less, and that's why you feel like you're okay where you are, you know.
that's a weird observation of like just because think about what you just said of like there's more,
You know there's
but
more, but you
you're
also know that there's less,
yeah, but I
type
mean, a
of
lot of
thing.
people what it is they settle. I guess they do you think they settle out of fear. What do you think that? What do you think that is?
I think it could be a million different things depending on, your personality and, what your situation is. It could be because you don't have the motivation for it.
Mm,
And, it could be because, you don't have the resources for it
that's
too,
true.
and, that's always a possibility.
Or you don't know
Or you
how
don't
to get to the
know,
next step.
yeah,
Yeah.
or you don't know the steps but that, all kind of comes down to, how bad do you want it,
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, and it really does, just like kind of like the big theme of this podcast and everything is out of all the stuff we just talked about, at the end of the day, it comes down to the individual and how they approach it and what they want to achieve or not achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to put in that self work, because one of the hardest things in life in general, or just not, yeah, one of the hardest things in life is to sit with yourself and just look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I'm a piece of, I'm a piece of shit
Yeah.
and I didn't know it or whatever it could be, or I'm lazy or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, that you're not you're ignoring or not wanting to face is what, it's there, and it's hard to sit with it because people don't like to have that accountability. People really don't like accountability. They'd rather, it's so much easier to just put it off as to something else. Hey, I got
Yep.
anxiety. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm not like that person, or whatever it might be.
Right.
Um, yeah, that's where it all comes back down to the individual and what they tolerate, or
Yeah,
um,
for sure. The motivation for sure, I think, is another big factor, or just how much you're willing to accept your situation and how much you're willing to actually put a change to it.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not easy to sit down and realize, like,
Yeah.
fuck, my situation isn't what I want it to be,
Yeah,
and I
right.
gotta fucking start over. Like,
Mhm.
that's another thing, like, let's make it simplified, and like with careers, right? I went I can only use myself in this example, but like going on a career path and realizing, like, wait, this isn't what I thought. So
Yeah.
many people will just be like, I'm stuck. I'm sticking with it,
Mhm.
and that sucks. And then you start to hate your job and yada yada.
Yeah.
Versus, like, I remember I went into I went into marketing, and the job I had for said marketing position was not what I thought it was going to be. And I remember like 6 months in being like, this isn't what I thought.
Yeah.
And it took me, I swear to God, like once I realized that was sad. I was like, dang,
Yeah.
this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Mhm.
And it took me a couple of weeks, if not a month or so, to figure out, like, hey, we can't be sad about this. We need
Right.
to action plan.
I
Hey,
need to do something
yeah,
about
right.
it.
How do I get out of it? Right. I don't like
Mhm.
it. Let's start
No more
planning an exit.
self-sulking.
Yes.
You
Oh,
can self-sulk. You can
and
allow yourself to, but don't stay there for long.
uh, gosh, this is so relevant to everything. But
Right?
yes, no, 100%. Like,
Literally.
you should, and I actually, a big advocate is, I think you should. I think you should take the time you need.
Yeah.
The best thing, and I'm more of a planner. I have to plan
Mhm.
stuff, right?
Oh, me as well.
And for some that don't, I almost say this would help you get over your self sulking, because you could self sulk and then self sabotage really quick.
Oh,
You can just
absolutely.
spiral that bad boy down.
Mhm.
So you got to be like, I'm giving myself 2 weeks to just be like, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you set the date on July 15th,
Yep.
Saturday. That's my last day. I'm
Yep.
done sulking.
Exactly.
On the 16th, I start doing some small things. And
Mhm.
it's a big thing to that's a tip is giving yourself a date to get over your sulk. But
Yeah.
but it is a thing. I think you should, but you gotta reel it in. You can't let that net get big. You gotta pull
Yeah.
it back,
Right.
because it can drag you down.
Yeah. But I think that's part of the process too, is allowing yourself to once again acknowledge that, wow, this really does suck and I hate that this is happening to me right now. And I acknowledge that, you know what, this is a rough spot,
Yeah.
you know. But once again, just like everything else, once you acknowledge it, um, you can now start planning actionable things to
Get out.
get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that same, it's the ebb and flow always.
Life really is just ebbs and flows, the yin and yang theory,
Mhm.
and it is a constant flow. And like I kind of mentioned this earlier, like you gotta go with you gotta go with the flow. You gotta go with
Yeah.
the flow, because like you can't fight it, because if you fight it and you're trying to predetermine, again, like
Mhm.
going back to that, you have a fear that you don't want to happen. You end up self-prophesizing,
Yes.
self-fulfilling this
Oh my
fear,
God.
because you are trying to prevent it so much
Yeah.
that it ends up just becoming true. So you gotta
Mhm.
just go with the flow. If you're feeling something, fucking say it. If you're,
Right.
whatever it is, within reason. But no,
I like to think of it as like an incline slope too.
yeah,
Like, even though it's rocky, each time that it dips, it's slowly starting to, get better and better,
yeah,
And of course, you're going to have some crashes that, take you back a few steps, but I
yeah.
mean, it always will come back up at a steady,
Yeah,
amount.
there's a graph that saws like the graph of life, and it was like what people think, and it was like a steady line
Oh,
up.
yeah.
And what people really is, it's like up, down, 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 down,
It's like the
up,
market.
yeah, just like the market.
Right?
Yeah. No, another great example for people, like your markets, consistency of just like keeping your money somewhere and letting it
Mhm.
grow has been proven to be
You
the
could
best way to do it.
Right,
Yes,
you
you
could let
can.
the fucking the negative return for the day get you down, but you see a 5-year growth of 11% or something,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, 100%. I want to circle back to manifestation, just because I think that's such an intriguing topic, and I think we kind of are similar from what we've been just talking about. I feel like there's a level of, let me just say what I think, and then I guess you can confirm if you
Yeah.
also believe that before I put words in your mouth. But like with manifestation, I totally agree. I think there's a level to it of like self-realizing maybe what you want, whether it's with a job, a relationship, your career, whatever, again, whatever it could be. You have a level of like, I want this thing. You can say it 1,000 times,
Yeah.
but I think there has to be work involved with it.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
the two go hand in hand. So it's like, hey, I want to have a successful podcast. You can have that be your manifestation, but then you still got to work at the podcast and do the things every day that help build that podcast. And then the universe, God, however you want to, whatever you believe in, then starts seeing that you're putting the work and the manifestation coming together. And that's when those two come together, that's when things start coming up, invitations to help you grow it, opportunities arise from it. That's my take on a lot of this. Is it's not just manifestation, it's both things coinciding. Your energy is directed into one thing, and the universe is recognizing that you're putting both physical and mental energy into this, and it's then going to present you opportunities to help you grow that specific thing. And that's the key to everything: relationships, jobs, artwork, whatever the fuck it is. That's where it comes. It's both.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree on the entire, you know, manifest plus actionable, things that you can do. It kind of goes along with, actions speak louder than words. And that doesn't only mean, true in relationships and friendships or whatever you want to put it to. It matters a lot to yourself too.
Yeah.
You can say to yourself, oh, I'm going to be this great, successful person in 5 years, or I'm going to make X amount of money and everything. You can manifest that however much you want, but until you actually start doing it, for most importantly yourself, nothing's going to happen. But, when you start taking those small steps, like you said, you put the energy out towards it. You allocate your time, your energy, your mindset towards the specific thing that you're working for. I think that naturally it feels good within yourself to know and acknowledge that you're actually doing it for yourself and that you are taking actionable, steps to fulfill whatever, manifestation you want to
Yeah.
reach. And I just think, I don't like to put a label on it like the universe or anything like that. I think that the general sense of when you feel happier as a person, when your energy is high, when you have a high vibrational frequency, I think naturally good things just are attracted. It's the
Yeah.
law of attraction right there. When you put out that energy, when you know that you want that energy is going to fucking come to you, you know?
You just nailed it. I love
Yeah,
that. I love saying that to people. Yes, whatever you put out, the universe is just a mirror
right?
of whatever you're putting out. So
Exactly.
if you're sad and you're negative, it's just spitting that right back at you. If you're
Yeah,
angry, well, guess what? You're gonna run into some angry people.
exactly.
You're happy, you're gonna run into some happy people.
Hmm.
And just it exactly, it's a spitting image. And that's when people say like you control your universe. That's really what they mean. It's like
Right,
your thoughts become the actions that come right reflecting back to you.
right.
I totally buy into that. I totally agree with that. I believe in that to the extent of like not to relate it to me again, but like with the job thing, like when I had some friends that were laid off, and I've been laid off before at another company,
Hmm.
and I remember I was one of the people that I got laid off. I came home, I started working right away, still applying to jobs like crazy, but I was the first person to get a job offer out of the group of people that got laid off.
Oh, wow.
And in my head, I was like, because I wasn't sitting around. Not nothing against them. I understand taking a break. I took a 2 week break myself. They just happened to take a longer one.
But you did take action.
But I took action, and I felt like the energy I was putting out of like, I'm gonna find a job, I'm gonna find a high paying job, and this is what I'm gonna do. And
Yep.
then not only that, I'm gonna work in the meantime to still have some money coming in.
Yeah.
Help me get that job quicker. I believe that. And I had friends who I said same thing when they got laid off after me at different their position. I said that to them. I said, dude, it's about, I telling this to everybody because I swear by it. Whatever you're putting out is what's going to come back to you. So if you are
Yeah.
applying to 55 jobs a day to 100 jobs a day and you're actively putting in a lot of effort, you're gonna get that back quicker. And
Exactly.
I remember my one friend got rehired in like 3 weeks, and I was like, there you go, man.
Right.
And he told me, he was like, he would send me like, I did 50 applications today. I'm like, dude, that's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And it is. It's like, but it comes right back. It's all right, you know,
Exactly.
you're looking for a job, we got you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a very simplified version of it. So.
Right. And that's a little bit of like, you know, ROI on yourself too. Invest in yourself, invest the time to actually care about, you know, what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
You know, the better quality of things that return back to you are going to be, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then hold yourself to that high standard, and with people, with anything. I mean,
right.
You do deserve the best. Don't put up with too much. Put up with what you got to put up, but
exactly.
Don't let it drag you down. It's the best thing. So I kind of know where this answer will go, but I'm going to answer you the one question of the podcast. We've been chatting for a good amount of time now. I can't see the timer, but I'm sure it's up there, probably like an hour. How do you, theme of the podcast, live yourself every day? So Hannah, how do you live yourself for every day?
You know, this could have a million different answers to it.
And that's why I love the question.
Right?
For the record.
Right.
That's what I look, because the answers are all over the place. It's great.
Right. Let me say crisscross happy sauce for this one. I think kind of a broad answer to kind of overcompass all the other different possible answers I could have would be to just find meaning in the small things, or to find meaning in, you know, your everyday life. You know, there's no such thing as a boring day. There's no such thing as a meaningless day, because there's a whole lot of meaning that you're even here today at all, you know? And I think just, you know, and I am just personally I'm very in tune with my emotions, and, you know, I'm an emotional girly, you know? And I like to think about these little things, and I like to be grateful for all the little things that people usually don't think about all the time. Like the fact that, you know, I'm able to drive my car here, or the fact that I got to wake up in a safe and secure bed, you know, and, you know, the fact that I can go home and hug my cats that love me, you know.
Right.
It's the little things that I'm just very grateful for, and I think that just goes along with practicing gratitude. I live by practicing gratitude, I think, and that's been one of my biggest mindset changes that have kind of brought me to the person that I am today, because trust me, I didn't used to practice that. You know, I've caught myself where I've been a total bitch before. You know, I've caught myself where, you know, I'm having like narcissistic tendencies, or, you know, I'm letting myself get walked all over, you know. Like don't get me wrong, I'm by no means like a perfect person, and I am, you know, very imperfect, just as any other human out there.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that's one thing that has changed, that has tweaked that little mindset day by day to kind of get to that better mentality. And I can safely say that, especially, it's exponentially grown over the past couple months, but I've definitely seen a growth in like my mindset and just my overall quality of, you know, life up here, over the past few years for sure.
I want to circle back to the finding meaning in your daily life. That is such a amazing thing to live by, and it made me start to think about, do I do that? Because I don't, for starters.
Well, no, you just don't realize what you're doing.
Yeah, but I mean, but when you gave your like small examples of like finding the meaning of like my life while I'm here, and I just think that is a very valuable tool to put things into perspective, because
right. And it doesn't need to be this big existential question or answer, you know. You know, some days, you know, I just rot and, you know, watch TV, or, you know, I read like a couple chapters of my book or something, and I find value and meaning in that as, hey, today was my recharge day, you know. It doesn't need to be some overarching amazing, like, this is what the meaning of today means by any means. But yeah, just as simple as, you know, I'm allowing myself to recharge today, and that's what today's about. I'm respecting myself to give myself time to, you know, to reset, you know, so I can be the best version of myself, or a better version of myself.
Right.
You know?
I get it. I get you.
Because some days, you know, feel like they fucking suck, and you aren't the best version of yourself some days. But realizing that, I mean, I just had one of these days the other day where I was feeling like a bit more emotional and everything. And I was like, holy shit, like today sucks. Like, why does it feel like so weird and everything? And, I just kind of thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? It's going to pass. It's just one of those waves. Today is one of those days to kind of reflect on like how good of a week it's been. The meaning of today is to reflect and know that tomorrow is going to be better, you know?
Yeah.
So even stuff simple as kind of that little tweak in the mindset. It's been one of my, at least, kind of, I guess, coping mechanisms, or just kind of mindset changes that have helped a lot, I think.
No, I love that. I'm someone who, maybe I get it from my dad and our work ethic. He's a very good work ethic, but I get sometimes where, like, if I do have a day where I'm sitting in bed all day, I get almost mad at myself, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, fuck, I did nothing today. I was a
Right.
lazy piece of shit.
Right.
And I don't give gratitude toward the fact that I was able to maybe relax and recharge when maybe
Right.
I am run down. I don't even realize it. Or maybe
Mm-hmm.
my mind is not in a place to go make content today.
Right.
And that's something I find balance with, because I want to push, and I'll get burnt out, and then I get
Yeah.
mad that I didn't do more, instead
Right.
of finding that balance in both of like, hey, we're gonna work really hard Tuesday, and then Wednesday we're gonna chill, and we're gonna really hard
Yeah.
on Thursday, or whatever that looks like for me. I guess what I'm realizing, it's something I personally struggle with, is finding that uh balance of working really hard and relaxing,
Right.
because I can be go 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 for a while, and then I'll get burnt out and be like, why am I not go 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 anymore?
Right.
What the fuck?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's finding that weird little sweet spot of, doing just enough, and also allowing yourself to, have days where you push harder, and also have days where you are allowed to not push at all,
Right.
you know, because
Yeah.
it never needs to be a 50-50 type of thing. It can be an 80-20 shit. It can be a 90-10 sometimes. But it's all about that steady overall kind of balance.
Yeah.
I found I'm guilty of having tendencies, especially like if I'm kind of in that weird, going into a new era phase, or, when I have a life change or something. I wouldn't say it's a toxic tendency, but it's not that I get obsessive over a few things, but like for me, like when I started like picking up reading books again, I'd be like, I need to read like 5 chapters today, or I need to like viciously clean this entire week, and I'll like viciously do it for like 2 weeks in a row, and then boom, like I'll forget about it eventually, or I'll tell myself that I'm gonna start journaling, and I do it consistently for like a week and a half, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I put it in my drawer and I forget about
Right. Yeah.
it.
I'm the same way, especially a big one, again, not to simplify it for people like the gym. Like, I
Yeah.
can go really hard, and
Mm-hmm.
then I go on a vacation,
Right.
and then like now it's like a grueling way for me to get back into it, versus like when I approach it and I'm like, maybe I go 30 minutes to just get back into it, and I slowly just go 30 minutes every day, and then eventually I work it back up to an hour, and
Yeah.
I'm like in a good space to go all the time. That is way better than me just diving in and then being like, oh, I can't, I'm burnt out, like,
Right.
or finding things that make me want to go and be active versus forcing myself to do something. Like,
Right.
I don't like running. I fucking hate running.
Yeah.
I don't, and so my cardio, I play pickleball,
There
try
we
to
go.
get some cardio, but like that's a way for me to find something I like and enjoy doing, and then
Yeah.
I feel good afterwards. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I follow that. Yeah, I need to.
For sure. And not like you need to go hard like all the time. I mean, even though, I preach gratitude so much, like I don't write in that fucking journal every single day. I try to do it.
Cancel the whole podcast. It's over.
No, I do it. I don't do it 7 days a week, but I do it like 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Just like working out too.
Yeah.
It's not like I do it every single day, but consistency, allow yourself to, obviously working out's a little different because you need to give yourself some rest days.
Yeah.
But
But find your consistency.
exactly. And, I feel like moderation is key with absolutely everything in life too, you know? And I feel like, that's kind of go towards anything.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. You don't want too much. You don't want too little
Right.
of all that. Well, I absolutely love that answer. Find meaning in life. You've given me something to think about, and we obviously talked about a lot of different spiritual things, and I love that. I love episodes like this that really make you start thinking, and I hope some of the listeners have also found they were like, oh, I haven't thought about it like that.
Right.
I love stuff like this.
I always love hearing different perspectives and different, ways people look at different topics too, because there's no right or wrong answer for anything because people differ so much anyways. Right. But it's really cool and kind of eye-opening to just hear different inputs.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I absolutely love this conversation. Tell people where they can follow you if you'd like, and if not, then don't worry about it. but I'll make sure to put it in the caption if you want people to follow you. Other than that, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Do you want people to know where to follow you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at HannahMarie2_.
Perfect. I'll make sure that's in the description as well. But Hannah, thank you so much for coming on. I greatly appreciate it. I had a phenomenal time.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Peace.